I'd like to begin by addressing what unfolded in Washington, D.C. this week. What we witnessed was an assault on democracy by violent rioters, incited by the current president and other politicians. As shocking, deeply disturbing, and frankly, saddening as that event remains, we've also seen this week that democracy is resilient in America, our closest ally and neighbor.
How's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Boma, and in today's video, I am sharing with you the reasons why Canada is better than the United States. Oh my goodness, that's a lot to unpack. Let me give you some backstory. I've lived in the US and I currently live in Canada. I lived in the US for about 2 years and I've lived in Canada for almost 10 years. So I think there's some significant reasons we need to be talking about Canada and why you should probably be moving here instead of living in the States or moving to the States. So if you're curious about this, watch till the end because there's a lot to unpack. It's pretty juicy. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for doing that, and let's get started. So like I mentioned, I have lived in the United States. I lived in North Dakota. I went to school there for just under 2 years. And I know what you're thinking. North Dakota is not exactly, the epicenter of the United States. Fair enough, it's not. However, while I was in North Dakota, I did travel quite significantly. I probably visited around 10 states or so. And, in the past 10 years since I was in North Dakota, I have visited probably an additional 20 states. I've probably been to around 30 states in the United States, which is pretty significant. And, I've lived in Canada. I've traveled across Canada as well. So I feel strangely qualified to talk about this, and I hope you think so too.
Clap if you care. Clap if you care.
So what are some reasons why Canada is better than the United States? Let's start with the cliche one, universal healthcare. Healthcare is huge. I know, no shade to Americans when I hear, American politicians talking about, access to healthcare and should healthcare be a universal human right and things like that. I'm just like, why are we still there in 2020? I feel like in Canada, we are so past that. A person, in my opinion, should not have to go broke because they are trying to get medical bills paid. I remember going on vacation, I was in Belize and I met this doctor and his wife. He's an emergency physician in, I believe it was Philadelphia or somewhere like that, but he was, working in a pretty rough part of town. And he told me how some of his patients who came in the ambulance, who needed to be in the ER for emergency purposes, begged and pleaded with him to not, have to stay there longer than an in and out kind of care because they were just so scared of going bankrupt. And to me, that's a bit inhumane. So one of the reasons I'm so thankful to be living in Canada is just the fact that I can go to get any sort of medical help that I need and not have to pay for it. And I know Canada's healthcare is not perfect.
That's the truth.
We have long wait times, we have, shortage of doctors and all that stuff. It's not perfect at all, but I've been really happy with the quality of care I've gotten here, although maybe I had to wait a few months to see a specialist, for instance. But you know what? You can walk into a walk-in clinic and see a doctor in a few days, whenever you want. It's not that bad. The quality of service we're getting here is good. It's free. I'll take that any day. So I think healthcare is just a massive one in terms of why Canada is better than the United States. Similar to healthcare, I think being poor in Canada is easier than being poor in the United States. I say this as a person who has been poor. I was a broke student. I had no money whatsoever. I often had 2 jobs in university. I was not a student who, had parents paying my way through. I had to work my butt off, and I think that experience of being poor, and even right now past the university stage where I work in nonprofit, I think Canada's social services and our social insurance system is just a lot more structured and a lot better than the United States. For instance, I think the fact that in Canada, if you're poor, you don't have food stamps and stuff like that, you just go to a food bank. We have multiple soup kitchens. You get what you need. That's it. If you lose your job, employment insurance system is really accessible and easy to apply for. If you need child care benefits, those structures are in place. And I know all these things exist in the States as well. I think because Canada is a smaller country, if you're a person who is relying on social services, which, you know, a lot of immigrants do, let's be real. I've talked about this a lot in this channel, that for a lot of immigrants, when they come to Canada, they struggle to find their feet. There's underemployment for immigrants. Immigrants often don't get paid competitive wages. And so many of them have to rely on social services. And the fact that, you know, in a small city like I live in, there's, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 food banks and other social security services. I think those services provide a lot more stability to your average Canadian than the equivalent in the United States. If you think I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments.
I'm sorry. I have to be honest about it.
Another reason why Canada is a lot better than the US is the fact that our education is just cheaper. I know this because I've been to school in both countries. Getting a university degree in Canada is significantly cheaper than getting an education in the United States. I mean, even our most prestigious schools here in Canada probably cost half of what, you know, really elite schools in America cost. I think just considering average tuition fees in Canada versus the United States, there is quite a big difference. So if you're an international student watching this video, this is probably not news to you. You already know this. If you want an affordable education, come to Canada. And another reason Canada is better is the fact that after you get this more affordable education in Canada, Canada wants you to stay in the country. I know many of the friends I graduated with in the United States, you know, they got undergrads, they maybe got a master's degree, and afterwards it was really hard to get work permits, it was really hard to stay in the country. They're definitely not permanent residents. They don't have a green card, you know, 10, 12 years later. That's not the case in Canada. If you go to school here, you get a degree, Canada wants you to stay in the country. You get your work permit when you graduate. If you get a decent job, you know, in 3 years, you can get your permanent residence. In 5 years or less, you can become a citizen. There is a direct path to work permit, permanent residence, and citizenship in Canada that is not like that in the States. And I know it's because obviously Canada is a smaller country, and so we need more immigrants and all that. You know, if you're an immigrant who is wanting to, you know, get a better life for yourself, no brainer, you should come to the country that actually wants you, right? So another reason why Canada is better. And if you're American watching this video, there's lots of job opportunities as well for you in Canada. And we want more immigrants. We love our Americans over here, so yes! Another reason why Canada is better is just that our wealth gap is not as wide as the United States. I think people get thrown off by the fact that America has a higher per capita income than Canada. That's just because there's a lot of billionaires in the States. When most people think of billionaires, they probably think of Jeff Bezos of Amazon, they probably think of Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, they probably think of Bill Gates, they think of Warren Buffett. These are all American guys. You know, America has some significant wealth at the top, and then the people at the bottom are, you know, really struggling to get by, and so that throws that number off. Obviously Canada has, you know, wealthy people and billionaires as well, but because we don't have as much of that Canadian capitalism as the US, which is a much larger economy, I think that the wealth divide is just not as significant and you don't really notice it as much. It's just not in your face as much as it is in the US. Another reason why Canada wins this competition versus the US is the fact that we're just a more multicultural country. I think that the fact that, you know, we have 2 official languages, we're able to have multiple cultures and people able to coexist pretty peacefully, and we have, you know, Anglophone Canada and Francophone Canada, makes Canada a really unique country. And I think if you want a really unique experience, Canada is the place for you. Another reason Canada is better, in my opinion, is the fact that we are more eco-friendly. I say this living in British Columbia, and British Columbia is, you know, quite eco-friendly compared to many other provinces. This is just subjective. I haven't looked at any peer-reviewed articles to back this up, but if you do, let me know in the comments. I think that the average Canadian cares more about the environment than the average American. For instance, we have less hormones in our food. We've got a really thriving mainstream, even vegan movement, recycling and composting and things like that are done in a really organized manner. I didn't see the same in the US. I think when you go to most Canadian cities, you can just tell that life in Canada in terms of the environment and our considerations is a bit more present in the average person's consciousness. I haven't seen the same in the United States, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm trying. I really am. I know.
Something that bothered me about the US is just how government departments function, and that's a reason why I think Canada is better. Our government departments just function much much better. For instance, most Americans complain about going to the DMV. For my Canadian listeners, that is the Department of Motor Vehicles. It's where you go get your driver's license. It's where you go get your driver's license renewed. People hate doing that. It's just an ordeal. When I lived in the States, I did not like doing that as well. The DMV was just a place that people just did not like to go. In Canada, going to ICBC, I live in BC and we call it ICBC here, is just not a painful process. You go to ICBC, you may have to wait a few minutes or an hour if you're unlucky, depending on what time you go. They take your picture, you get a temporary license by paper right away, and then you get your license in the mail. Simple and easy. Another example is the IRS versus the CRA. Most Americans have to deal with the IRS and most Canadians have to deal with the CRA for taxes. The tax system and dealing with the CRA is a lot easier to handle and manage and understand in Canada versus the United States. I have been doing my own taxes for I don't know how long in Canada, but in the United States, I was lucky enough to have a friend who's an accountant who did it for me. I did not understand it. John Oliver, the comedian, I think that's his name, he has this episode where he talks about just taxes in the United States and how terrible that system is. I'll put a link down below. Another thing is just immigration paperwork. Applying for immigration paperwork in Canada, again, a lot more straightforward. Sure, you may have to use lawyers and all that. Like I mentioned, Canada wants people in this country, so I think our government has done a lot to make that process just clear and easy to understand. The final point I want to make, which is very important to me, is the fact that in Canada, life is just a lot more relaxed. Aside from exceptions like maybe Toronto, which is a huge mega city, I think even life in Canada, you know, comparing it to a similar city in the United States, you can tell the difference. We have a safer country, life is more relaxed and comfortable and just a slower pace. Some people may not like that. I really like that about Canada. I just don't like the feeling of like frantic energy that a lot of American states have. That's my opinion, is something I've noticed. I love a lot of states in the United States, but you know what? There's just something about Canadian energy and Canadian vibes that is really, really unmatched. If you're considering living in Canada or the United States, I hope this video was helpful to you in making that decision. Tell me your comments below if you agree with my hot takes. Thank you for watching. Good luck in your immigration journey, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.